Hey guys, welcome back to Canon Cinema. I'm Amanda, otherwise known as AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Today I will be reviewing the new James Gunn film, The Suicide Squad. Not to be mistaken with the 2016 one, which also kind of has ties to James Gunn's The Suicide Squad because of three particular characters. So first and foremost, I have to say, I wasn't really sold on the Suicide Squad. I personally thought because of the dick jokes being in the trailer, I thought that that's the level of humor that was going to be throughout. The trailer really did not do the film justice whatsoever. So I was sitting at like a 6 going into the Suicide Squad. I wasn't that hyped, but my friends and fellow critics who went to go see it beforehand, their reviews got me really hyped for it. So I was excited to go watch The Suicide Squad when it was released last week. So it's really funny, to be honest, that I haven't had an IMAX experience since Birds of Prey. And my first IMAX experience in 2021 involves Harley Quinn. So that was really special to me. The IMAX experience for the Suicide Squad was awesome. It was just something that you needed to see on the big screen. And I'm really happy that I bought a ticket and went out. I actually snagged the last ticket in IMAX for that pre-screening on Thursday, and it was just awesome. It was a lot of fun. I did have a 10-year-old sitting behind me with their mother. Choices were made, but enough of the actual movie-going experience. The film itself, I really enjoyed. It has great humor spread out. It has great emotional moments. James Gunn finally gets a balance with his writing, with his characters as well. There are heartfelt moments. There are really great performances that he pulls from Daniela Melchior, who plays Ratcatcher 2. God bless her. We have a fantastic leading performance from Idris Elba as Bloodsport. So those two were the standouts for me. I didn't really like Peacemaker that much. I don't know what it is. John Cena is really funny, and that's great that he was able to play around with his comedic side in this film, but there was just something off about Peacemaker. And I know that he's a villain, I get it, and you don't want to like sympathize with him, but I just did not like his character whatsoever. I didn't find him interesting enough while watching the film, so to knowing that he's going to have his own television series is just not sitting well with me, just because he didn't really grab me enough in this film. But the important thing to take away from Peacemaker is that his dynamic with Bloodsport was probably one of the highlights of this film. They were constantly going against each other, competing who's better than who. So I really loved that it was just like a dick measuring contest. And obviously Idris Elba as Bloodsport takes the W always. But that was pretty fun. I personally think that King Shark is Sylvester Stallone's best performance. I'm totally kidding, but still, like, I think that it was just so funny that, like, no offense to Sly, we can't really understand him sometimes. So I think he used that to his advantage for King Shark, because he only got like a couple of words in and a couple of sentences. So I think it was just really funny that he played that up. And King Shark is another character that really stood out. So I really love him. I would love to see a spinoff with King Shark or Bloodsport or Ratcatcher 2. I think those characters can really have a TV series or a solo film or something like that, or bring them all together again. I wouldn't mind a sequel to the Suicide Squad either. Just having those characters have very comedic moments, very emotional moments, very like heartfelt moments between even the three of them, I thought really just changed the dynamic of the entire team. So the one thing that I can say is that it is entertaining. It's a lot of fun. Sometimes it doesn't feel like a comic book film because of all the violence and the gore. We're not used to seeing an R-rated comic book film. You know, we only got a couple of them in recent years. So I just think seeing it was kind of like we had to get used to it, that there is going to be swearing. Idris Elba cursing like was just the funniest thing as Bloodsport. Like he was just so done with everything. And it was really great to see that level of violence combined with certain action scenes that we normally wouldn't see because of, you know, a PG-13 rating. So the R rating allows you to play around with more graphic content, and I think that it worked for the Suicide Squad because you see like King Shark ripping people apart, eating them. Like you can't do that in a PG-13 film. You do that like off screen, but you can't have like limbs being torn off. You can't have their faces blown up. Like it's just fun stuff like that that you can only get in an R-rated film. And James Gunn really presented different characters from the bottom of the barrel, kind of like what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy, that audiences will appreciate a lot more because you put them in the spotlight. But the important thing that Gunn does in the first half of this film is that even with certain character deaths or certain action scenes, he really showed their unique abilities within such a small amount of time to show what they're capable of. So I thought that was really great. He did it quite effortlessly, and there were so many different characters that he presented within the first half of this film. So I thought that he did that extremely well. The opening beach scene is just jaw-dropping. You're just sitting there like, I did not expect this whatsoever. And the first 10 minutes of this movie, James Gunn really sets the tone of the entire film because the stakes are very high. No one is safe. So you're constantly anticipating something bad happening to the squad. So I thought that that was really well done. And until the very end, especially in the third act, you didn't know who was going to live or die. And I thought that he kept that anticipation, that tension quite nicely throughout the runtime. I do have to say that there were a couple of missteps. I know that many people are loving this and they're saying it's one of the best CBMs. It is a lot of fun, don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking that at all. I didn't really like the structure of this film. I think that's the one thing that was bothering me throughout, and that kind of affected the pacing of it because there are some scenes that are moving at the exact same time as another sequence. So to kind of like patch that together and keep it really quick, especially in the third act, I just didn't like that structure whatsoever. It was a choice, don't get me wrong. Like I think that he played it up for comedic effect and shock value. I completely understand that, but I just didn't really vibe with it. A couple of missteps. I love Harley Quinn so much. I think she was a lot of fun in this movie. The action scenes for Harley were fantastic. However, I don't think that the writing for Harley Quinn was my favorite. I think that she reached peak levels with Birds of Prey, and Christina Hodson did a fantastic job writing Harley in Birds of Prey, and Kathy Yan's direction really amplified her character and who she is, of the perfect balance of Dr. Harleen Quinzel and Harley Quinn, you know, together. So there was a balance of intelligence and then the psychotic streak that she has. So I think that they perfectly had that balance. Whereas with James Gunn's Harley, I feel like they dumbed her down. I think there were choices made that I don't really think that Harley really, you know, was fully in on. I wish that she was a bit more cunning in certain scenes. You know, she was a bit more manipulative. Like I feel like she should have been in on certain aspects of missions. I'm just trying to say all this without spoiling, but I just think that her character at times, I'm not saying the entire movie was like bad for Harley. That's not what I'm saying. There are certain scenes and choices that I didn't really agree with. There's certain pieces of dialogue that I didn't really agree with. So I just feel like they dumbed her down just a bit, and I feel like it's a step down from what we did in Birds of Prey. Again, I had fun watching her. The action scenes were fantastic for Harley. I just think that in certain aspects, I wish that they would have written her differently, but this is just the situation we're in. Some things did happen in the third act that I was shocked by. And again, I do think that Gunn did certain things for shock value in the third act, which is, again, totally fine, just very unexpected. And I wouldn't have done that for certain characters. I also have to say that the CGI in the third act is some of the best VFX work that I have seen. Starro looked absolutely incredible. I was in awe watching him just like strutting his stuff around the town, because I was amazed that we actually got a gigantic starfish walking around. Like, that is how far technology has come, and they really nailed Starro. Like, it was amazing. And then the practical mini Starros, they were extremely well done and detailed and perfectly fit people's faces, which is really scary. It was kind of scary. It looked like a freaking graveyard of like Starro zombies, and it was really well done. I really enjoyed it. But again, the execution of how to take down Starro, they prolonged it. I feel like a lot of the third act could have been, cut down a bit for time. It did drag on, like in the beach section. I think they could have cut that a bit too. At times I was like, let's get it moving, or else Starro's really cool. So I really enjoyed the third act. So the Suicide Squad was a very nice surprise for me. All in all, this movie is a lot of fun. It's very entertaining. There are some great emotional moments between characters. There are some very unexpected moments, some standouts, like even Polka Dot Man. Like, I really enjoyed his power sets. I just wish we would have seen a bit more of them as well. The thing that worked for this film was that the characters are all great working together and separately. I do think that we should have had more of a team up with Harley and the rest of the squad. I feel like she was on her own majority of the time. She would have played off, Rick Flag, who's a friend of hers, throwing it back to the 2016 version of Suicide Squad. Like, they have those little moments together, and I wish that they would have developed their friendship a bit more. Even with Captain Boomerang, like, you had Boomer, you had Rick Flag, and you had Harley Quinn from the OG Suicide Squad. So to not kind of play with that friendship and that dynamic, but still make nods to the fact that they are friends, was another misstep in my opinion. And I didn't really like the fact that Harley was on her own for majority of the film is a misstep. I really do think that, because it is a squad film, it's a team film, it's an ensemble, and then you keep one of your strongest, the face of the DCEU, to be perfectly honest, is Harley Quinn, and you keep her separate from the rest of the team. I just didn't think that it worked that well. And people love to see Harley, so I just feel like we didn't get enough of her with the team. I'm not saying she had to be the star of the show. I'm really happy that it was Bloodsport, but at least integrate her, have her there a bit more than we actually got. So I did give the Suicide Squad a 4 out of 5. Still very, it's high up there on my DCU ranking. 4 out of 5 ain't that bad. I had a lot of fun with it. I do hope we get a sequel. I hope Bloodsport gets some love, because Idris Elba did a phenomenal job, and I would love to see more of him. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. You can always find me over at AMX NDA Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Come join in on the conversation. I'll be talking about movies all day, every day. And I'll catch you guys next time. Keep watching movies.